right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to my annual GDC panel, Big Swings, Big Hits, Building a Profitable Business in MR, or if you're been in the chat for a while, VR. We're sort of covering the whole thing. We don't really look at MR and VR as separate to the ecosystem anymore. It's all what's best for your game. If your game is better in one, better in the other, have at it. It's pretty awesome all around. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kimberly Unger. I'm one of the senior third-party content leads over on the Metaverse content team. Most of you probably know me through my strategic work on things like hands or on mixed reality or just straight up gaming innovation. And today I'm here to guide our expert group of panelists through what I hope is a conversation on building a successful business in MR. Now, as a note, the overlords have told me there is a QR code at the end of this that we would like you to click on so that you can fill out a survey and tell us how we did. Feedback is a gift, so please tell me how I can do it better next time. And there is a $5, I believe, Starbucks gift card floating around in there as well. So if you're starving after 4 days of GDC, go get your snacks. So as most of you are aware, the platform is growing up. And what we are seeing is a whole new kind of player coming in. They're MR natives. These are folks for whom putting on a headset is low friction. What they want is on the headset, therefore they'll put on the headset. They don't worry about motion sickness as much. They don't worry about whether or not the straps are tight. Their friends are in the headset, and that's where they're going to be. And this is a unique group for us. Previously, we've had to talk people into the value of VR. These people are growing up with it. This is roughly equivalent to the first generation of people who grew up with mobile phones. And from here, we expect things to just keep on getting bigger, going out there. And as this audience comes in and the way they look at games sort of changes, our whole audience is shifting around a little bit. And you know, the revenue is there. Like, we know that these people monetize. We don't have ads on platform. So there is no true free to play on our platform. If you want to keep doing the fun stuff, you've got to keep paying for it. And our job as people who run game development businesses is to figure out how to bring our games to those players and how to give them what they want. And to that end, join me in welcoming our panel. I've got a range of experience in the room for you today. We've got a Quest OG who dodged sequelitis. We've got devs who heard the siren song of gaming, made a massive pivot, and are running away with success on this platform. We've got a team that dialed in on the power of early access before anybody else really figured it out. And of course, we have the devs who figured out the magic of the monkey. And because I believe in a little bit of showcase in every presentation, we're going to let you guys intro yourselves, but before you do, I'm going to run a video for each of your products, and you get to show off what you want to show off, because this is all about the devs. We've got about 30 minutes, so we'll try to save time for a question or two, but I'm optimizing for insights. The information these guys can give you, I think, is maybe supremely valuable, and so I want to make sure you hear everything they have to say. So we might have to default to the time-honored tradition of hallway chat after the fact, but we can definitely get some of your questions answered one way or the other. So please silence your phones and laptops. If I hear anybody playing Candy Crush, I will call you out. And let's get dangerous. All right. So meet the panelists. We have Scott Albright, David Yee. Is it Chanel or Chenille?
Chenille.
Chenille. And we've got Tara. And let's get our videos going up. First thing.
Soldier. Trust
Scott Albright with Combat
no
Waffle.
one.
All right, Scott, you want to introduce yourself real quick? Tell us who you are, what you do.
Hey guys, I am Scott Albright from Combat Waffle Studios. As they said, I am the CEO and creative director for the entire studio.
Sweet. So you get to do all the cool stuff.
I do a lot of cool stuff, yeah. I'm very happy. Yeah.
Nice. All right, let's see who is
The
up next.
Orion
Next
Array
we have
stretches before
David
you.
Yee from Another
A
Axiom.
station lost in space, but filled with challenges, games, and events. Our home in the stars is finally online, my drifters, and it's yours to explore. Come drift, dive, and dominate in high-speed drift ball. Relax with a little golf, or risk it all in the chaos of scrap run. Every district pulses with adventure. Every corridor hides mysteries to explore. Hop aboard, Drifter. It's time to light up those circuits.
All right, and for those of you who are not familiar, Orion Drift is the next game coming out from Another Axiom, who are the developers of Gorilla Tag. So David, take
Thanks
it
for
away.
that cue, Kimberly. Yes, that was not Monkey. That is Robot instead. My name is David Yee. I run production and operations for Another Axiom. That was Orion Drift, which we launched 3 weeks and a day ago in early access. So really excited to see how we're pushing VR and kind of these social spaces together. I think what you see there is about 75 players per shard that we have running live and on frame rate on Quest 2, which we're very happy about. And it also speaks to how we plan to move VR forward and also how we're successful in this space.
All right, let's go to the next one. All right, Chenille, it's all you.
Yeah, I'm Chenille Dio. I'm the CEO of Half Brick Studios. I look after many things, but that game is Thrill of the Fight 2. That's the last game that I worked on, and it's currently in early access. And yeah, just amazing experience if you love fitness or boxing.
Fantastic. All right, and next up, Tara.
It's good.
All right, Tara, you want to tell us who you are and what you're up to?
Yes, so I'm Tara. I'm the director of product at Animal Company. So we are top #2 most popular and recently top earning game on the MetaQuest. And we've been doing this for the past 9 months on zero marketing spend. And just to give everyone a little context, so Animal Company is the IP of Spatial.io, and we've been in the MR VR space for over 7 years. We initially focused on enterprise collaboration platform on the HoloLens, and then eventually evolved into UGC gaming platform on both AR, VR, web, and mobile. Animal Company is one of the original IP that we created in the effort of putting ourselves into the developer shoes and creating the toolkit, but also the games that are built with it.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Let's get into the questions. And Tara, I'm going to hit you with this first. Since you were last on the intros, you're going to be first on the questions here. So, what do you wish you'd known about running a business back at sort of the start of your VR MR journey? And in your case, it can be from when Animal Company took off or when you guys were working with Spatial. But what do you know now that you wish somebody had told you way back then?
Yeah. So, building for MR VR is such a challenging thing because the headset is still a very niche medium. So a lot of things that we wish as Spatial that we've known sooner is that selling VR and MR to enterprise is extremely challenging. The adoption was slow. The willingness to pay is even slower because adopting the headset to use on a daily use case as adults is just really hard to do. Our sales cycle could last from 6 to 12 months, which you could imagine how hard it is to be able to build a sustainable business. So that's number one piece that I think we wish we had learned in the past. Number two is Gen Alpha is the new audience of VR. If you think about how young audience, they were very willing to adopt new technology in order to play games without thinking much of the headset barriers compared to adults. We wish we had known this sooner. But back in the day, our background was very focused on enterprise use cases. Oh, and another thing about the Gen Alpha audience is that their parents are always willing to invest into new device and new content for this audience to learn and to entertain themselves. And then the third piece of things that we wish we had known is that hiring in-house talents is very important to grow, because in the past we've hired a lot of gaming consultants and people from outside in order to help us learn as much as possible every time we try to find a new use case. But it didn't really work out well for us. We even outsourced some of the game development. But eventually we learned that let's try to build a team in-house and create an environment for them to grow and lead the project, which has led us to the success of Animal Company today.
Excellent, thank you. David, I'm going to pass the next question over to you. Let's see, so businesses come in all shapes and sizes, and growth is always tricky. Like, how do you decide when it is time to hire? How do you decide when it is time to take the next step forward and grow your company, even though maybe the revenue's not quite there yet, when you're trying to go bigger? Like, what do you look for in that moment?
Yeah, I was thinking my answer to the last question. I would say that, you're all studios are trying to do this for business. So take it back to first principles. You need to know who your audience is. You need to know how they're going to spend. You need to build a P&L and a business model that speaks to that. And then throughout the course of that, you can find the answer to this question. For us, especially in these crazy times, as an industry, we have to look at the cost of onboarding someone and bringing them full-time onto staff versus if we work with someone externally. And there is a world where you can find great partners externally that can offer you everything that you get from an internal partner. But there are trade-offs there. And so for us, what I would advise you is to figure out what your core team size is, figure out how you can insource, outsource to kind of, and plan for scale and capacity that way. And every hire you bring in-house should be critical. They should be an absolute critical hire, and then look to see where you can scale and grow organically through contracting or other methods. And then work to build that way. Once you've proven you've got enough success there, then you can look to converting or even finding more people in-house that you can bring on. But bottom answer is look at your business plan. Make sure that makes sense and you're in the black. That is the best advice I could give on that.
Perfect. Scott, I'm going to pass this question to you as well, since I know Combat Waffle's been doing some hiring and some expanding and sort of taking advantage of your success.
I mean, yeah, we're currently working on 3 titles, and we have 2 more in the pipeline that are going to come down over the next 3 to 4 years, hopefully. So we're currently actively interviewing people as of next week. Something we found with just hiring and basics, I really think you covered everything, David, was just because someone's built a VR game before in Meta doesn't mean they're necessarily a great VR dev. And we've found that out the hard way a few times. So I think when you're vetting your employees, you actually do a much better job, and you need to make sure you're looking at GitHubs and code bases, because that is something that we failed to do a few times, and it just came back to bite us to where we had to completely refactor AI systems and things of that nature and spent months to do it. So to save your money and your time, make sure you're vetting everyone the best that you can. Make them show you code bases. Make them show you their blueprinting. I'm in Unreal. Unity, maybe it's a little easier, but we're in Unreal, and devs are hard to find as is. But even expand to flat screen developers. We've been recruiting a lot of flat screen guys and bringing them into the world of VR. So that would be my best advice to you for hiring.
Can I add on to that really quickly? How many of you are in XR/VR already? Or looking to, okay, good, most of the room. What I would tell you, and everybody here already knows, is your brand of XR is unique to your brand. And there are lots of different flavors of XR/VR. And you have to figure out what is meaningful to your audience. It's so new. It's been new for 10 years now. But for us, we have very critical elements. We call them our axioms, where our belief in VR is different than other people's. Right? We refuse to use menus. We refuse to use laser pointers. We refuse to do a lot of those things. And there are some people in VR that understand that, and there are some that don't. So just like if you get an expert that says they're a games consultant, find out what they actually did. Because if they were a customer support person or in QA, they may not be able to help you with your business model. So to the point, really invest in and figure out who you're actually talking to.
Yeah.
Can I just add to that?
Absolutely.
Quickly. So an approach that's worked well for us is to hire generalists, so just good all-round developers, because then you can move them to different areas. And we found that when we get specialists, they come in, they fill a certain role, but then they're usually not as adaptable as the generalists.
Yeah.
That's a great insight. Tara, do you have something to add?
Yes, on
Okay.
that note. I think hiring people with the expertise from their background is really important for us to kind of like learn as fast as we can, but also you have to kind of strategically think how much can we adapt this playbook to this current day and age, because the technology is changing very quickly, and audience adaptation to like entertainment and technology is also changing very quickly. So it's very important to assess like how much the consultant will be able to adapt that quickly to what's currently trending. And if you really like the work of the consultant, I think it's best to bring them in-house as fast as possible, because it's the camaraderie of a team, especially when it comes to game development, is so important. Without that camaraderie, it's harder to build a hit game that everybody would be invested in.
Agreed.
Perfect. All right. I'm going to skip ahead a few here, because I think all of you guys have done some interesting things on this topic with how you approach your audiences. So what was your thought process, or what was your decision tree behind choosing your current monetization model? Like, you've all entered the platform at a different point in time and sort of a different maturity level and with a different audience. So Scott, I'm going to start with you, since you've been around for a bit.
I mean, really, when you look at Tabora, the monetization model is it's just Escape from Tarkov's monetization model. We're in-app purchases, different editions of the game, but we have been analyzing very heavily Animal Company and Gorilla Tag and things of that for future titles, because they figured out something that we didn't know how to do. But luckily, knowing these people personally and being able to talk to them offline and on LinkedIn, we can get insights. But I think what they're doing now in the current space is a monetization model that works amazingly, and I think Tabora's model, while still good, is going to be the old guard soon.
Nice. Shanil, I'm going to hit you up as well, because you've gone from Thrill of the Fight to Thrill of the Fight 2, and I'm sure you guys have had some discussions internally about how to do that.
Yeah, lots of animated discussions, but I think with early access, we obviously wanted to get as many players in because we started with multiplayer only. So we wanted to keep the price point relatively low, but we still wanted to charge for it, so we have the revenue to continue funding development. But our plans also factor in in-app purchases as well. So we're at that point where we're trying to figure out, well, what's the attachment rate for players actually spending on in-app purchases? And that's going to have a big impact on what price point we finally go out at when we reach 1.0. So we're experimenting, and we're seeing what these other guys are doing and what works, and hopefully we'll get to chat a little bit more to you guys as well. But for us, it's about experimentation, but also being able to fund the development, especially through early access.
Perfect. David, got something to add?
I'll speak for Carousel, our original founder. The reason he decided on his monetization model is that servers were expensive and he couldn't afford them anymore. So he just had to start charging for something. If I put my publisher hat on, the advice I would give this group actually is to test your monetization. I miss App Lab desperately. Our plan was we wanted App Lab, so we were really sad to see it go away. Fortunately, the store team actually offered some alternatives to us in forms of early access, so if you're thinking about that, I would pursue it. But my best recommendation to you would be to work with your audience, make sure you've got something that's sticky and retentive, then test your monetization, and you don't know what they're gonna respond to. We kind of have a sense of what Gen Alpha is responding to, but maybe your audience isn't that. But test different forms of monetization, figure out what's going to work, and then turn your marketing funnel on. But that's just best practices I would suggest.
Tara, do you have thoughts?
I totally agree with what David just said. Before we even start building our game, we already look into different successful VR games on the MetaQuest store and see what type of audience we want to go after and what's their appetite look like when it comes to spending. And funnily, we actually look at Ghost of Tabor and Gorilla Tag and Yeeves, among us, a lot of the games to see how they monetize. And we took a lot of inspiration from that, and we apply it into our game, and then we just talk to players, understand what excites them, and then we iterate from there. We layer in a lot of different monetization strategies after talking to our mobile consultants, and just trying out, experimenting. After seeing results for like 3 different times, repeatable results for 3 times, then we say, okay, this is the path to go, and then we just iterate from there. So it's really about like understanding the audience, take inspiration from successful games out there, and then just iterate on top of that.
All right, next question. We've got about 10 minutes left, so I'll probably do maybe 2 more questions, and then I think we'll end up wrapping it up fairly quickly. How important is post-launch marketing and sort of maintaining a strong presence in the store, like changing your PDP, showing people what's coming next? And I think almost all of you have some form of IAP or some way to like keep refreshing that. Is that core to the business? Is that something you need to just make sure you've got somebody who can sit on that all the time?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, thankfully I have a publisher that takes care of a lot of that for me. But the ideas behind the IAP, we are pushing new DLC at least once a quarter, and our attachment rates are insanity. They make up probably a quarter of our revenues each quarter, our DLCs do. If you're new and you don't really want to dive into it yourself, I would tell you to get a publisher to handle it for you. I think David would agree publishers do a pretty good job of handling the store pages and things of that nature, at least mine does. But releasing that new DLC and make sure we continue to get banner access and things of that nature, or else Tabor would just sort of just be in the top selling, and maybe it would fall out eventually. But I really feel like DLCs are what keep us fresh on meta.
I have a contrarian point of view.
Okay.
Sweet.
Partially just for discussion.
Yeah.
We don't do any updates to PDP. We don't do blog posts. We don't do developer posts. I know there's a lot of angst right now about the store and how much exposure you get and the level of curation that's there. But I actually view it as we are a market and a store that's actually maturing. Competition is good. Competition is here. We're all friends here. All of our success is all of our success. But what I would suggest to you now is, in order to be successful, you have to lean into some real marketing. And marketing today isn't about building up demand for a title, then launching it to an audience you think you have. Marketing today is building that audience while you're developing, and then launching it into a pre-built way. So post-launch marketing, I actually don't think is as effective. Pre-launch marketing, when you're actually engaging with your community and talking to them, finding out what they like, I mean, it's almost the community model we talked about before. I think that's more important than changing PDP art or anything else, is activate them early. Get to the Discord, get to socials, get to wherever they are, and talk to them about what you're building. That is going to drive your awareness more so than an ad that is on a platform that they don't even watch anymore. Or never did.
So are you all driving your marketing through TikTok or Facebook? Where are you putting your organic marketing at, your
We're
stuff like that?
a little unusual, right? We don't really have, we've reached meme status, so I mean, we don't really have paid marketing. I think we have over 1 billion TikTok views right now for hashtag Gorilla Tag. Gorilla Tag with 1 L misspelled, I think is a couple 100 million. But what I would advise this group is to find, number one, where is your audience? If it's Gen Alpha, they're not on Instagram, they're not on Threads, they're not on X, they're not on Reddit. They're on TikTok and they're on YouTube Shorts. And part of this also is, I would suggest you build your audience. So for any of you who are out there, and I apologize if any of you are in here, if you have people reaching out to you saying, hey, I'm a creator, or if you think, oh, I'm going to get this creator, they've got tens of thousands of views, and I know you've done this as well because we've talked about this, right? You're better off building your own creator ecosystem and people that are invested in your game and want to make content about your game and build their audience. You're better off partnering with them than you are to someone that's going to keep a transactional relationship where why pay them to do a video about your game when they're just going to do it and leave and they're going to take their audience with them. You're much better off building the audience, and Ghost of War did a great job doing it.
So what we did really is we blocked all the big creators out of early access. We wouldn't even give them in alpha, we wouldn't let them play the game. It didn't matter if you had 1 follower, no followers, 100 followers, we gave you access to the alpha. And because those people are going to make 10 videos a day on your title, if I go out and I hire a large creator, they're going to give me one video for 10 grand, and I'll never hear anything else from them. And it does nothing for the algorithm to pick you up. Yeah, and we've never paid for any marketing on our end either. Everything's organic, TikTok, YouTube Shorts. We just hired everyone in-house to do all the marketing for us.
Chanel, I'm gonna ask you to step in on this one because
Yeah.
you're sort of come at this from a publisher perspective as opposed to from the developer perspective.
Definitely, but being in early access, we've really lent into the community aspect and deeply engaged with them. So we have brought on some influencers as well, but not the big name ones. Like, we have been developing our own, and if we engage with anybody, they need to care about our particular game and what they're doing. And we find that resonates well with the audience. And just building in the ability to sort of capture and stream your game footage to social networks is super powerful. So, when the game hit early access, there were heaps of, just videos coming out on TikTok, YouTube Shorts, everywhere. Obviously not Gorilla Tag levels, but it all just helps to keep that, sort of build that snowball.
Fantastic. Tara, how about you guys on Animal Company?
Yes, so I totally agree with what David said. We really believe in the ability to create a game where it's not only fun to play in VR, but also fun to watch on social media. And the reason why we come to this sort of like design framework for virality is what we call it in-house, is because we very laser focus on Gen Alpha as our audience. And if you think about what Gen Alpha does, they spend a lot of time in school and then they spend a lot of time playing video games. But then on top of that, they also spend a lot of time watching social media, not only to consume content, but also to create content naturally. Like, everybody wants to be Mr. Beast, kind of like that trend. So, we designed the game in a way that, if people in here, how do we create different moments in the game so that people would want to naturally create content and share it with their friends, whether or not they want to be a content creator or not. And then from there, we go into like, okay, how do we release the game in a way that would give content creators new stuff to create videos every single week? And that's how we arrive at the weekly release cadence, which I would say is the #1 key to success in terms of like increasing our weekly retention. And then, we also have social media and community in-house. We start doing social media and community building on Discord 1 week before we even launch. And from there, like we gather all the people who are interested in the game and then show them what virality means inside the game. And then they can coordinate with each other to, copy what we already created on social media. So now we've been growing until, I would say, 500 million organic views on TikTok naturally. And a lot of the creators are actually just players from the community who are just really enthusiastic about the game and creating content. We didn't really pay any influencers at all so far. And, for example, like J-Man Curly, he just came to our game, really liked it, and then just create videos because it really boosts his channel. So that's something that if you go after Gen Alpha, you really need to think about, like, how do they spend their time on? And how do you capture their attention from, outside VR to inside VR?
Perfect.
I just wanted to add too, like, in terms of marketing dollars, we invested in creating tools to allow content creators to create content easily. So we created a spectator app, which allowed people to sort of film a match, from a third-person perspective, like a boxing game, and that really helped the community, run tournaments and things like that. And we really lean in. So I even participated in a number of tournaments, as one of the contenders. So I think it all goes a long way.
All right, we have time for one last question. What length of financial or timeline runway do you recommend developers plan for post-launch? So the game hits the store, is it a year? Is it 6 months? Like, you got to be prepared to buckle down for some period of time these days. You can't fire and forget into the store anymore. Off the cuff, what is your recommendation?
As long as you can, really, but 6 months at a minimum, in my view. Yeah.
Perfect. Everyone agree?
Yeah.
As long as you can stick around.
Infinite.
As long as
Infinite? Yep.
At least six. At least six.
At least 6
At least 6 is a good answer, yeah.
Okay, sweet. All right, we are exactly at the 3 o'clock mark, so arguably we need to be out of here. But I would like to have all of you give one last round of applause to our industry panelists up here.